we have free will, as created by God. I allowed my free will to be dictated by someone other than God. And we could go say it was Satan, or we could say it was another human, whatever we want to say. But I allowed that. And my mind was so far from what reality actually was and should have been. And it cost me my family for a period of time. I'll say that. Yeah, it is.
I've talked to multiple men who are thinking about divorce, and one of the things I always try to tell them is don't go sit at the bar and talk to a divorced guy about whether or not you should get divorced, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of the reasons I asked, right? Because you had the benefit of having your parents there to be able to say, hey, like, what can I learn from this? But if you go into it with the mindset, like you said, you went into it with of like, I've already kind of made my decision up. I'm just using this as a tool to help me make that decision, or give me a justification one way, shape, or form. Then we can always find anything in any conversation to get us to that point. But if we're truly going in and wanting to fix something, or wanting to, like, if you're thinking about that, like, go to somewhere where, go to somebody who has a strong relationship with their spouse and say, hey, I'm really struggling. Like, how do you keep a strong relationship? Have you gotten to a point where you thought about these things, and how did you work through it?
So let me tell you where my head was at that point in time. So I was also the person who was so involved in church that I had forgotten about my relationship with God. I was involved in church. Oh man, I'm up here, I'm singing, I'm leading this, whatever, name the 2 or 3 things that I was doing. Looked upon as that guy, whatever you want to say it, that I was doing the right thing in church, but that was not, that was just secular, really. It was just man-made stuff. So my relationship with God had gone out the window. And even though I could say I was praying and this and that and the other, it wasn't genuine. So the man I was then compared to now, total polar opposites. I can say I can't go back in time. I'm blessed to be where I am. I'm blessed to have a sort of a new lease on life with this marriage, and as well as my relationship with my children, and of course now my grandchildren. So with my grandchildren, I want to make sure that they understand what marriage is all about, in the right way, through God's eyes, one man, one woman. And so I feel challenged in that department. I don't feel a burden by any means, but I feel challenged, Yeah.
Good. No, I love that. And it's, the learning experience. And you mentioned before we even started that you wanted to talk about mindset, and like, it's clear that you've already adjusted a lot of your mindset and where you're going. And like, that's what you're trying to show other people, is like the way you're thinking about your situation can completely, oh boy, another crown is getting brought to me.
Oh man, that was even bigger than the last one.
I know. This one looks might
even have a diamond in it.
It might have a diamond. I feel like, you're making me a princess as opposed to a king, buddy. Yeah, is that what you're doing? I appreciate it, buddy. How about you do your math homework, you little punk?
You little chump.
Yeah, you little punk diggity over there. Oh no, I'm not going to edit that out. That'll be on for everybody. Everybody will see you put a crown on my head. But I don't remember exactly where I was before I was
about mindset,
given a crown. Oh, about mindset. Yeah. So that's one of those things that I talk to people about all the time as minds. I think that, in this world, that's what we should be talking about, is our mindset. But too many people, I shouldn't say too many people, we're all very focused on our mindset as far as growing in our business and growing in our personal, endeavors on who we want to be. But having that mindset shift as far as being a dad and being a husband, I think are, to your point, even more important. Because if I've got God and then my wife and then my kids and then my business, all right, well, I should be putting my mindset on these 3 things pretty much in check before I even get to my mindset on my business side of the house. The priorities need to be priorities for a reason.
Well, 100%. And you touched on that before. A lot of successful entrepreneurs, business people, they read books on how to make the next million, their mind towards making that next million, whatever that is. But they're not reading books on how to be a better husband, how to be a Christian father, how to be a Christian man, to maybe be a mentor for another young man who's going through something, whatever those situations are. Right. And that's, I think we've allowed, well, I know we have, we've allowed, Okay, here we go. You and I meet for the very first time. Generally, almost the first question out of one of our mouths is, Adam, what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, your answer now may have been something back in the day different, but now it is, hey, I'm a stay-at-home dad. I get to teach, I get to homeschool my children. I host a podcast for blah, 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 blah. I know you well enough to know that the first thing that comes out of your mouth is not, oh, well, I own 600 multifamily unit doors and blah, blah, and, what's your APDI, whatever the
ADPI. Yep.
Yeah. That's because as men, we, unfortunately, our value from society is wrapped up in who we are from a business standpoint or our status.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of lost my train of thought of why we started talking about that.
Our mindset as a family man, as a person.
Right. So why are we not reading books? Or number one, why are we not reading the Bible on a daily basis and applying that to our life and our family and our children versus whatever, name the mindset book, if you will.
Yeah. Secret to the Millionaire Mind, right? Which
correct.
is something I recommend to everybody. I love that book.
Yeah.
But you still have to have your thought process right, because again, it doesn't matter if you have that millionaire mind and you get millions of dollars if you lose your family at the cost.
Right.
So,
and that's sort of Inky's point about what he said is, what does it matter if it costs you your family, your life, your kids, everything.
Yeah. So looking at your business now, right, and what you're doing, like have you talked to your kids about what you do now? Because obviously they're older. They're 29 and 26, I think you said, right?
24.
24, okay. So at those ages, right, I mean, they're already out of the house. They're already kind of moving on. They're doing their own thing. One of them's a parent already. Like, you obviously have a different perspective now on business, on life, on growth, on financial freedom than you did. What kind of steps are you doing now in conversations with your kids to kind of bring them on that path?
So my daughter and her husband are already, she has a very successful job. He is a CrossFit coach / stay-at-home dad, which allows him to do that because her job is so good. They've already bought their second house and rent their first one 2 or 3 years ago. They were totally on board with, hey, tell me more about what you really do and how that works and how we can benefit from it. And so, they're going down the path of particularly real estate in some shape or form. And I see them probably investing in a venture with me in the next couple of years, something like that, because they see the power. They love their kids. I think they want to travel. They also love their home. They love being at home. They're sort of homebodies. So, however, on the flip side of that coin, my son, we've had discussions, but he's so focused on the next step of his life as far as med school goes that's not even in the realm of possibility at this point. It doesn't mean that it wouldn't be. And, I've had very specific conversations and showed them on paper, hey, here's your father's will. You may not want to talk about this, but we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
If this occurs, you're actually going to be heirs to these particular assets. Here they are specified. You have to know how to do da-da-da-da-da. Of course, you and I both know that depending on how the OAs are written, how they may or may not participate in that opportunity. We've had those discussions. Yeah, definitely my daughter's interested. I think she sees the power of it. And then especially from a tax benefit, I've shared that with her. She's smart. I could see them going down the road, if you will. And to be honest, I did point blank ask her, this was probably about 5 years ago, but at that time, she had just gotten married. She's starting to think about a family. She's probably been promoted at her job one time. I said, I think we went to lunch together one day, and I just said, would you like to help me run my business one day? And all she said, with maybe thinking 3 or 4 seconds, she goes, yeah. And I said, and that was really it. There was nothing like, well, here's how we do this, here's how we do that. And I said, you know what? That answer is good enough for your dad right now. We'll talk about it one day. And we've had
Yeah.
very loose conversations, but as I see them building their life, I could see that happening with them.